Had you seen this movie before?
I saw it before, and that I haven't watched it again, so I'm recounting a lot of the stuff. But I just remember that it was like dystopian, and it made you feel bad at the end. I remember the way it ends. I remember how it starts. I remember the major plot points. I remember the characters' names. That's about pretty much it.
Yeah, I'm not gonna go over a lot of the plot. I mean, I don't think it's really all that important.
I just remember it was one of those things where it's like, oh, Fade to Black. Oh, of course they're not going to have a conclusive ending.
Well, I mean, really, the way the story's set up, there's no real way for a happy ending to happen. I don't think. Not truly, anyways. All right. So we're live. This is the 26th. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the 3Cast for October 26, 2016. I'm your host this week, Matthew Weber. I am joined by Mr. Vincent Hui.
How's it going?
Ricky I believe he's going to be off this week. He said he might try to jump on, but I don't think he will be here. He's putting his kid to bed or something. I don't know. There's a reason why we should just stop having children. Of course, then we'd be living in this movie.
Topical.
Yeah. So this week we reviewed the movie Children of Men. It stars Clive Owen, Julianne Moore. Has Michael Caine is in it for a little while.
Yep.
Who else?
That's pretty much it.
The Chiwetel Ejiofor, that guy. Yeah, he's in that movie for a little while.
Black Panther?
I can't say his name. I can't even. I can attempt it, but I would just butcher it like a piece of meat. It's terrible.
It's the Black Panther guy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sorry, Black Panther from Marvel, not the Black Panther like the movement.
He was also in that one that we watched the last time that I picked a movie, 2012.
He was in that?
Yeah, he plays the doctor scientist guy, the main doctor scientist guy, the black guy.
Wow, man, that's a long time, man.
All right. Anyways, so this movie, basically the premise is set, in like 2030 or something like that. It's not too long from now, but so it's not too far into the future, but it's very dystopian. Basically, humanity has lost the ability to reproduce. All females have gone infertile, and basically because of this, the world goes to shit. I mean, world wars, nuclear war.
Okay, so this is the thing I can't. Just to be clear about this, I don't understand why they were going to war. I understood the whole refugee situation to a certain degree, but I don't understand the war. Why the wars were actually starting? I correct me if I'm wrong, but it was just refugees and then like just the absolute anarchy that emerges from that. And can you just clarify why there was war?
All right, so if you remember a while ago, we watched the movie V for Vendetta.
Yep.
It's a little bit like that in that they don't really cover anything outside of Britain. So they show you that like New York was bombed and Moscow was, had a standing army or whatever, but you don't really, like the rest of the world's gone to shit, and the government of Great Britain is proclaiming, England's great, right? And even though we follow Clive Owen around and we see that's not so great, but they've closed the borders of Britain while the rest of the world's gone shit, but they don't ever really tell you why or how the infertility problem led to the wars. So we really don't know why they reacted that way, but you can kind of see how, I mean, if something like this really did happen, which we could then all blame on Dan Brown because that was in his latest novel. I mean, for some reason, they just don't want us to have children anymore.
Yep.
So, I mean, there's one thing about this movie is it's very classical dystopian in terms of something happened that caused the world to. It's kind of like the Book of Eli, where like sun flares or whatever destroyed the world and killed a whole bunch of people, and then the world went to war. And then in this one, but it's not. This isn't as world-ending as like a Roland Emmerich film like we watched last time. Because we don't get to see great pictures of like Big Ben getting bombed or aliens floating around. So there's nothing like that. This is more something happened that that caused everybody to go infertile, and then because of that, we humans decided to just fuck everything up.
Yeah, that doesn't quite jump that logic. I wasn't sure if I missed something on that one.
Yeah, for some reason, they seem to be blaming illegal immigration in this movie, right? At least the British are. I don't know what's happening in the rest of the world, but for some reason, illegal immigrants in Britain in this movie are verboten. They're sending them all back. They live in camps, treated like crap. The basis of the movie is basically any young people are they're seen as like they're very valuable, right? So the beginning of the movie, the youngest kid in the world is murdered, and like everybody's crying, and it's like a pope died, or worse. But the plot of the movie is that a pregnant woman who is like a foreigner. It has to be spirited into the country and out of the camp and all this stuff. And Clive Owen has to. It's very convoluted, but the point, I guess, the point of the movie, the reason why I like it. Actually, before I say what I like, why don't you tell us what you thought on this, Vince?
You know what? I'm trying to remember when I watched this, and when did this movie come out? Like this.
2006.
Okay, so
it seems like it was longer ago than that. If I had to guess, I would have thought late 90s, but it was 2006.
Yeah, because I remember. The reason why I'm trying to remember this movie is because I keep on correlating it to the other Clive Owen movie where he's like a badass guy protecting a pregnant woman or a woman with a kid, and that was Monica Bellucci. That was another movie, and it came like almost like within like a couple of years of it. I can't remember what his other movie was, but. So this movie, I'm just trying to picture it and you know how I'm always trying to read things into it, right?
Oh, Shoot 'Em Up is what you're thinking of.
Shoot 'Em Up, that's the one, right?
He kills like 300 people in that movie. It's a great movie. I mean, just from an action standpoint.
But yeah, so I figured you'd know that one. But so that's the reason why it's a little bit hard for me to like identify. This one's obviously, I think this one predated it. I think it came before it, and it was more serious, and that's why I was like, wow. When Shoot 'Em Up came out, I was like, it's the sequel where instead of a black girl, he's got a white girl. Right?
Shoot 'Em Up came out a year later.
Oh wow! So it really was, So it was like back to back. So it was really awesome.
7, yep.
You can understand how that when that came out, I was like, aren't they in the same kind of vein? In any event, this was one of those movies that I heard was really good in the theaters. I didn't watch in theaters. I ended up like renting the DVD or downloading. I can't remember what it was, but it was one of those ones where I had to watch in multiple sittings because it felt really long to me.
It's 2 hours almost exactly.
Yeah, so like you'd think that like Clive Owen, like he's been in a lot of action movies. It wasn't, and it wasn't what I expected. Quite frankly, I thought it was going to be a little bit more actiony.
There's not a lot of action in this movie. No.
Yeah, because the commercials, you see like him running away in the convoys and stuff, and it was like absolute destruction. You kind of basically see it's war-torn Britain. It's kind of cool. You think something like that. No, not really. The gangs and even so without just straight to the end. I mean. He does die at the end, and that's kind of like the tragic hero figure. The everyman that kind of dies in the interest of saving the world's population. My sense is that this was one of those kind of movies where it's like, you ever watch those World War II dramas where it's like, the world is going to shit, but there's always good people that can carry it around?
Yeah, there's a lot of them like that. I mean, pretty much.
Yeah. So like this one's one of them, and like you have like, it's like, it almost played to a lot of cliches where it's like, oh, world's going to crap, and then there's this one person that will help you out. There's another person that you think is going to help you out, but they actually have, the gang. I can't remember. They basically get absconded by a gang, and then because children are effectively like, as you described, deities effectively. This one pregnant woman, the gang wants to keep her for some sort of like political value, so that they can it's all about like the small micromanagement of power that came about in this movie that really was interesting to me. But I always try to look for the messages, and I can't really think of why this movie was really super relevant. I gather it was based on some sort of book, because I couldn't imagine this coming out and just being like, yo man, I got this really cool idea. Pregnant woman, nobody's fertile, guy dies. Like I don't see that as a good selling point. At the end of the day, the movie was one of those first movies that I thought was a relatively blockbuster movie that ended with one of those, kind of Inception endings where it's like, Does he die? Doesn't he die? Is the world going to hell in a handbasket, or is there going to be happiness? The thing that really stuck with me, and I was talking to you, Matt, earlier before the show started, that the movie ends and you're like, it goes fades to black, if I recall, and it's just like you hear creepy kids laughing or something.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So that's it. And I mean, you're right. It was like a V for Vendetta thing where it was very much like, no one really knows what happens in the rest of the world. It took me a while, if I recall. If it weren't for Julianne Moore, man, I would have to kind of calibrate my hearing for language and accents. Thank God Julianne Moore's like in every damn movie, where she always plays like the 40-year-old mom or 40-year-old, like,
And the funny thing is, she still can't act worth a shit. I can't stand that woman for whatever reason. I don't know. Maybe it's just because most of her movies are like really bad. Like she's in I think the movie's called Breach. It's a like a based on a true story kind of movie. It's just like you go into it like it's like spies and stuff. Like it's not. Like, she ruins that movie. I think I'm maybe not thinking of the right one, but it's like she can't. Maybe it's because she plays the same. I mean, she's the same in most every movie she plays, right? And that bothers me. I don't know. At least the ones that I've seen her in, because I try to avoid her as much as possible.
See, I find that in a lot of the movies, she ends up playing the tragic maternal figure, and again, this movie it just plays to that, right? Where she's like the loving wife that can't have, that really can't help anything, but they have her and Clive Owen, had that there's ostensibly had a son, and then they're trying to look out for she dies in the pursuit, if I recall, and at the end of the day she plays to her strengths. I don't think she's a terrible actress, though. I mean,
I think it's more just a personal preference. I don't think there's anything truly wrong with her. Just like, I mean, everybody always expounds on the virtues of Meryl Streep, but
I can't. Okay, that one. Like,
like if you ask like critics, and you had to ask them like who's the best female actress,
there's no answer.
Well, right, but they would say Meryl Streep, and like I'd say like no, she's god awful. She's not.
She's the most decorated.
If I had to answer that question, I would have to think about it for a while. There's one that's really good. What's her name? It's she's a dame, so she's British. Helen Mirren.
Oh, Helen Mirren. Okay, yeah.
She can act. She plays the same.
No, Red. Come on, Red killed her acting cred, man.
No, I love that movie. What are you talking about? That's a great movie. The sequel was terrible, and they are making a third one, by the way.
How? They're all dying. Okay.
Well, they are like all 80 years old, but I think that's the point.
Anyway.
They did kill Morgan Freeman off in the first one, which is disappointing because he can make any movie better.
Yeah. But anyways, this movie, I thought it had an interesting premise, but like you said, like we always have this ongoing thing where it's like a Stephen King movie, where it's like it's an interesting premise, but the conclusion just sucks. Like all I remember was like the way it ended, and just like all you had to do is just have the baby, and once you have the baby, you can. It's like a free pass. Like you are basically invincible once you have the baby, and if it just all it took was just to have a baby. And to get through all these problems, I mean, you could have just stayed in that one spot, had the baby, and then walked across and got and escaped. Like I just don't understand that. Like it's one of those weird convoluted plots. The ending's not very satisfactory to me, but the premise is quite interesting. So overall, I don't know, maybe a 2 out of 5. Not because it's a bad movie, but just because it's very unsatisfying to me.
Yeah. All right. So I'm gonna put on my Vince hat and look for the underlying messages in this movie. So there's a couple. If this movie, yeah. If this movie came out probably 5 years later than what it did, I think you would have saw more, because if you look really closely, I think you'll see. So if you're looking at the way the movie shot. It's very dark and dreary, and the whole basically the whole city of like London. He's going through. There's bombing. There's police everywhere. Homeless people. There's trash on the street. Everybody's living base. I mean, from what we've seen in what they show in the movie, everyone is living in basically poverty. I mean, not
Yep.
really poverty, but it looks like poverty because it's dark and dirty. There's trash everywhere.
Sure, man.
It's not a very clean city. But if you also look at it, look at the technology that they show everywhere in this movie. And they like flat screens, people with computers and stuff like that. So what I took from that was like, well, if this movie had come out after the technology revolution that was like the iPhone, and how everybody had like a smartphone, you would have said that like technology, no matter how advanced it is, isn't going to stop the world from going to shit. So that's one possible message you could read into it. The other one is that's in there is the traditional dystopian rich versus poor. So like basically the whole city's poor, but
Yep.
then
Yeah.
they go behind the gates or whatever, and so the first time he goes behind the gates, there's like this park, like this dog park or whatever, and if you look really closer, there's this guy walking like a Siberian tiger.
I don't remember. Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, it's like rich people behind a gate, saving art like Michelangelo and the David or whatever, and because he goes like to visit his cousin at near the beginning and to get the papers, and they're all like behind this gate and like very separated between rich and poor. But that's very much in every dystopian movie. I mean, it's not something that. I mean, it's very redundant to point out because it's just something that, obviously, if you have money and the world goes to shit, you're going to be able to afford to not be poor. So, I think the thing that I like most about this movie, not that it's anywhere near original, not that the acting's anywhere near great. I like Clive Owen a lot, but usually in his action movies, I'm not actually a fan of him in this movie. He's just he's just a placeholder for me. He's a good he's just an actor, right? Actually, my favorite character in this movie is Michael Caine, just because seriously, dude, a British guy saying amigo. I mean, come on. Like, what was that completely for? But anyways, my favorite part of the movie is the way they shoot the scenes, like the cinematography, I think is what you'd call it.
Yep.
Is they do a very good job of showing,
The long pans and stuff you're talking about, right?
Yeah. That, and I mean, just how very dark the whole movie is. Like it seems dreary, it seems depressing. You can, from the way the movie is shot, you can kind of get a feel of how the kind of like, I mean, it's just like the sun never shines in this movie ever, right? And that's just the way the whole thing is shot, and it's very successful in that.
I thought this would be like London.
Yeah, and they also they also do it in a way that seems realistic in the fact that if Michael Bay directed this movie, there'd be a lot more explosions, right? And it would seem a lot less realistic if J.J. Abrams shot it.
You would have pregnant women in a Michael Bay movie.
Right, what would be the purpose of Megan Fox in this movie if Michael Bay
He has to find a car hood to lie down on.
I mean, what's the purpose of having a sex object when there's no purpose in having sex, right? Wow, look, getting really deep. Anyway, so I think that's my favorite part of the movie, and that I mean, I don't know if that's really saying much because I've seen this movie maybe 3 times, right? And the first time I absolutely despised it just because I don't think I looked deep enough to actually see what the movie was really truly about because I got hung up on where's the action? Come on, this is Clive Owen. You're supposed to be gunning around with guns and having a woman on your arm and being a spy and all this shit. But once you get past that, this is not a standard Clive Owen movie. Then you can start looking a little bit deeper into what the movie's about and actually enjoy it a little bit more. So I would give this probably a 3.5 out of 5, just because I really enjoyed the cinematography on it. So yeah, that's it for the movie. Obviously, we don't know what Ricky thought. Probably wasn't enough action for him, I'm guessing.
Yeah, and it's probably like depressive.
Yeah, I mean, there was some car chases, but this was no Jason Bourne car chase.
All the cars were like, beat up wrecks and like, it was all dusty and
yeah. Another point is like, so Michael Caine's character, who plays Clive Owen's father, I'm pretty sure. Like the car he drives it looks like it came from like the 1980s.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look on the inside, it like has GPS navigation screen and like TV and satellite on the inside, right? So I mean, it's very contradictory.
Yeah, but you know what? I could argue that the reason why that happens is because, like, at that point in time, like, it's like Cuban cars, right? Like, they got these busted up cars, but then they're gonna like, integrate all this newest tech because that's the only thing they got to work with, the shell of the 1950s or 1980s car in this case.
Cadillac. Yeah, the Cubans love their Cadillacs. All right. So that was Children of Men. I have no idea. Suicide Squad is what we're going to be watching next, whatever that is.
Are you kidding me?
Is that the one with like
Batfleck?
What's the Harley Quinn, right?
Yes. The one that everyone like killed, the one that everyone like absolutely annihilated. So I actually just want to put that because it's a bad movie, but I actually want to see what everyone gauges as in terms of its relative badness because everyone makes it. The critics killed it, everyone hated it, but I mean, I think it's a bad movie, but it still wasn't. It was, eviscerated by the critics, and I don't think it necessitated that.
All right,
it's far worse movies.
So that will be in 2 weeks on the 9th of November. And 2 weeks after that, it will be our last show of the year. I think. I don't think I actually went through and did the math correctly on this. So, because that'll be the 27th. So we might actually have one in between. I don't know yet. We'll see. All right. So do you have a pick of the week for us, Vince?
You know what? Not for me, man. Not for me today.
All right. So just to make up for that, I'll have two.
Okay.
So the first one is if you're into Harry Potter at all. I know you're not. I know you're not. I don't care. I put up with your shit, Vince. You have to put up with mine. If you're into Harry Potter at all, I can't stand canon anymore because there's just so many flaws in the book. But if you're into it, I've been like. What I read now basically is Harry Potter fan fiction. Basically, you'd be surprised at how many really good authors there are out there just putting up content for your favorite characters, whether it's Harry Potter, Castle, NCIS, any of the Dan Brown books. I mean, Stephen King books, a lot of the TV shows. Literally hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of stories. Some of them are utter rubbish. I mean, terrible writing, terrible plot, everything you can imagine. So it's really sometimes it's hit or miss. But there's some old stuff out there that just kind of beats canon to crap. I mean, some of the stuff that's in Harry Potter is just so much better than the original. Whether it's because of plot or just because the writing is better. Anyways, that's not really my pick. What's great. It was with the fan fiction is because you can pretty much do anything. There's an author named Rihan, Rihaan. I don't know if it's he or she. I have no clue. I'm just going to say it's a she. Did a crossover between Harry Potter and the Batman universe. It's called Harry and Harley. Basically, it puts the two of them together. Harry Potter's like a super. He has like all the powers. He's got magic and he's like completely invincible anyway. So it's not realistic in any way, but it's a very, very fun read. It's not complete yet, but I mean, he has everything between. Like Harry goes into Gotham and decides he's just gonna fuck every chick in the Batman universe, and he just pisses Batman off. I mean, God, literally, he turns Bruce Wayne into a villain because Batman gets so frustrated with Harry Potter, he just starts beating the crap out of everyone. Yeah. It's hilarious. It's very, very good. And there's a lot of stuff like that. Anyways, that's one of my picks. The other one is going to be would have been surprising if Ricky was here because he knows how much I despise Windows 10. Mm-hmm. But within the last month or so, maybe 2 months, they've released something called the Windows 10 Anniversary Update, and it makes Windows 10 marginally better. Marginally better. I mean, we went from utter crap to I can use it now, and probably my favorite part is if you use multiple screens, they finally decided to put the clock on both screens.
That was a big issue for you, man.
All right, so a lot of times,
I
here at home, I have two screens, right? One of them's a 24-inch, one of them's a 20-inch. On the bigger screen, I'm almost always full screen, so it covers up the clock. All right, and on the smaller screen, I'm not full screen, but before the update, there was no clock on it. So I'd always have to go over to the big screen and minimize everything so I could see the clock, especially because a lot of times I don't have my phone sitting here beside me. I need that, the clock there so I can pay attention to, especially like right now, I'm in full screen and I need to know, so we can stop at 10 o'clock, right? Yeah. So I'd have to go through, it seems like a really small thing, but when you have to go through and minimize your windows and get out of full screen, 20 or 30 times a day, it turns into a big fucking thing. And they fixed that. Thank you, Microsoft. I'm still not going to buy your $4,000 computer, but I will. I thank you for putting the clock back in Windows 10 on both screens. Yeah. It's a terrible thing when that's something that they missed. Anyways, all right. So if you want to follow us on Twitter, I'm at MTWB. Vince is VWHUI. Ricky, who hopefully will be here in 2 weeks with us, again, is Ricky_Williams1. You can follow us on on Twitter. The podcast on Twitter at the 3cast, at the number 3cast. You can follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/the3cast. And we'll be back in 2 weeks with Suicide Squad. Apparently a terrible movie, so watch it.
I'm watching that, man.
All right. See you then.
Take care.